And we're back with more of your coffee break live on the HAN network. I'm Kate Chaplinsky, and I'm joined now by moms Dana Wright and Joy O'Meara and little Ella. Welcome, you guys.
Hello.
And you guys are here to talk about a very important topic and something that's been a big discussion in Connecticut recently, which is the use of medical marijuana for children and a bill that could make that legal for doctors to prescribe it. Can you talk a little bit, Joy, first, how this became something that you began fighting for?
Absolutely. A few years ago, it was brought to my attention through emails, people that knew about my son Jameson and his seizures and our never-ending effort to find a cure. I thought nothing of it. And then about 2 years ago, right after all of this, I started reading stories and I started researching the stories. And I started contacting the parents to see if there was truth to all of this. And little by little, I started finding out that these children all across the country were being cured by cannabis, the oil form, not smoking, which people don't always understand. So I started talking to other parents most recently to try and form an alliance for Connecticut, see if there's more families out there that need this. And there's a lot. A lot of us need it. A lot of us want it. And most people are for this bill to be passed.
And tell us, I know we have some photos of Jameson. He's absolutely adorable.
Thank
Can
you.
you tell us about his medical condition and why something like this would be helpful?
Yeah. Jameson was born typical and healthy. Around 18 months old, he had his very first seizure. About a week later, he had another seizure. And about a month later, he was having seizures every day. We took him to some of the best hospitals in the country, Columbia, Children's in Boston. We go to Yale. We also went to CCMC. And we've tried about 14 different rounds of medications. Sometimes the medications work fabulous. Other times there's horrible side effects to them. But we don't have seizure control. So he's 6 now. He is severely delayed. Since this all happened, he did get his speech back, but he doesn't communicate. He wears a helmet for the seizures and his behaviors. He struggles. He struggles every day. The seizures set him back at any given moment. The big ones, you hold your breath.
Right. And when you spoke to Steve Coulter at the Trumbull Times recently, you said, medical marijuana gives you hope. Is that right? I mean, can you explain that and why? Just because, and is it because of the other parents you've talked to that have been able to do that?
When you have a child with a severe illness, you're constantly searching and praying, and you live with hope. And then now we have it. We have real hope for a cure, for our children to have a shot just like everyone else's, to be healthy, to thrive. And not just live, but live with a quality of life. And that's really all we want.
Yeah. And Dana, can you tell us what brings you and Ella here? How did you guys get involved in this push for medical marijuana use?
It's very similar to, I was listening to Joy's story, and it was very similar to mine. I used to be skeptical about having that option until I had friends who moved away to Colorado to where it was legal. And they would send back videos of their daughter before they tried the treatment and after, and it was amazing the difference. She was able to play outside where before she was kept inside and away from the sun. She's able to speak small words where before she was nonverbal. So the more information that came in, the more I was starting to really buy into it and believe it. And the more that I see, I'm convinced that it's gonna work for the majority of the kids that could use it.
Now, I know, Dana, you spoke to the Wilton Bulletin, actually, which is another one of our papers, and you talked about some of the medications that Ella's already on and how this could actually be, less harmful in some ways.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
She's on 3 different medications currently and a special diet called the ketogenic diet. Though we have relatively good seizure control right now, that's not always going to be the case. And in fact, the doctor's already talking about what the next medication will be And that's what scares me, and that's what's driving us to support this. The medications that she's on to control her seizures and to stop her seizures are in the same class called benzodiazepines. They're extremely addictive, and the side effects are, they range from cognitive delay to actually affecting the liver and kidneys and pancreas. And we haven't seen that in children that use medical marijuana to control their seizures.
Right. And now, Josh, I just want to bring you on because this is something we've talked about before on Behind the News,
Right,
I
we
believe.
have.
And it's something, that we've talked about. There's some detractors, which I'm sure you guys have seen and you probably have your own opinion on. But Josh, is there anything you want to add?
Right.
to the
Well, I
discussion?
know that you sat down with at least 3 Republican legislators who all represent Wilton and the New Canaan area, who I know quite well. Tony Boucher, who's a state senator for a big area. Tom O'Day, who's from New Canaan, represents part of Wilton, and Gail LaValle, who is also from Wilton. As I'm sure, Tony Boucher has been a long opponent of any sort of marijuana, and I think is trapped somewhere in the 50s with, talking about it being a gateway drug and all these sorts of things.
Yeah.
And obviously doesn't understand the science. How does it feel, though, to be up against someone, and she's a rather powerful Republican legislator
She is.
in this state,
Yeah.
and she just, and I frankly, she's completely wrong about this.
She's completely wrong.
And so,
Yeah.
how does it feel to be up against like a stone wall of a thinking human being?
She's difficult. We did speak. In fact, the constituents that were there gave us a round of applause, and she was stone cold. She had no emotion when we spoke. I brought a poster of the 4 children that represent our page and their faces so that she could see them. I gave a heartfelt speech about my own son and the fear that if this bill waits another year, one of our kids might not make that year. That was the first time I've ever spoken publicly in my life. I was terrified. I was trembling. I didn't look at my notes. I was a wreck. And she just stared blankly at me as everyone clapped, and she just stared, and I couldn't understand how she could be so cold, but she also tried to make me look bad. She brought up the fact they kind of tried to pounce on me that they don't want children smoking marijuana. And when I disagreed, they disagreed back, and of course they were up on stage, and I was just speaking, but this is not for children to smoke marijuana. This is an oil form.
Does it get the kids high?
The
like
children-
smoking a joint?
Our children are high on the medications they're on right now.
Which are
This
actually
will not
addictive.
get
Which are
them high.
actually addictive. Even
Yeah.
smoking regular marijuana.
Yeah.
The studies show is not an actual addictive drug.
Yeah.
But the barbiturates, is that the type of
Yes.
drugs that they now you can only take in Connecticut are addictive.
Yes.
And we've seen this this growing epidemic of those are the types of drugs that lead to heroin addiction and all these sorts of terrible things.
It's not a gateway drug.
Right. Alcohol's a gateway drug. Anything can be a gateway drug, and alcohol's
Yeah.
legal, and alcohol kills a lot more people than marijuana does
Yeah.
every day, every year. But so how does it feel, though? Because you're going up against like a professional politician who knows how to spin and everything, and you're there fighting for your child's life.
Yeah.
Well, this, stone-faced woman, as you describe her, only cares about, I don't know what constituency she's fighting for. It's obviously not.
I don't know.
And she's not alone. I've heard this come up with it seems to be Republican legislators as well. So I'm wondering, what is the arguments that you've heard from them against this? What have you guys heard is the main thing?
It's almost insulting to our sensibilities, some of the things that they come up with.
We do have an answer for most, though.
Yeah.
I will say.
Oh, that's good.
We do.
Give us some examples.
Yeah.
One is we're opening up the possibility for kids to take this to school and sell it to other children. Now,
My son could communicate to other children to be selling drugs. I don't think I'd be having this conversation right now.
no, and I
He
mean,
can't even
honestly,
communicate, so.
honestly, what I have to take to Ella's school to stop seizures is far more harmful
Yeah.
than any case of marijuana use I've heard of.
It's not. It's an oil. It's just like another medication
Right.
that she's using her ability to fight us. We are against drugs.
Right.
We are completely against drug use. This is a different topic. So when she fights drugs, we are with her on it.
That's fair.
But this
This is
isn't
really,
a
I mean,
drug.
technically it's a natural, like, you
It's a
know,
plant.
it's a plant. It's an herbal,
Yeah.
you know, way. And there's a lot of different herbal oils that,
Yeah.
you know, you can buy on the countertop. You can't
Yeah.
buy marijuana, you know, for whatever, you know, for several reasons, many of which, you know, make sense. But the state has decriminalized marijuana. So you're allowed to have up to, what, almost an ounce of pot on you and you get a ticket. But your child who's suffering from seizures and you're fighting for his life, you know, you can't get this non-mind altering drug. You're forced to take a mind altering drug that is addictive.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do it and how you continue to, like, what do you have hope? Because I know
We live with hope.
I know that
That drives us.
Senator Boucher
Yeah.
helped block this from actually
She
even
did.
getting to the floor
She did block
as
it.
a vote, which is very undemocratic. I think too. At least let the legislature vote on
Yeah.
it.
Yo, go ahead, please.
I was going to say, I belong to a Facebook page that's a political page specific to Wilton. And I've shared some of our articles and I shared about our meeting, the legislators. And I have not gotten one person totally, completely opposed to this. I had one person say, why don't you try to get a voucher for your children to take, you know, a certain amount of medical marijuana, because this is not an issue that really affects a lot of people. And that doing drugs is far more harmful, like the kids who are doing drugs. And I said, just because something is getting more attention than something else doesn't mean that this medical marijuana issue should be put on the sidelines. And we're fighting for all the kids in Connecticut, not just ours.
Yeah. Ashley couldn't be here today. She lives in Trumbull with her daughter Reagan. She did do the article with me. I've made it clear, very clear, that if this doesn't work for Jameson and it works for Reagan or any other child in Connecticut, it is 100% worth the fight. It should be worth the fight for everyone. Everyone should want this, because you don't know. You could wake up tomorrow and that child that you love and you care about can have a seizure, and then your whole life is changed. You know, and there are people that have seizures and go on and live normal lives, but not our kids, not my son. And I would love to see him off all these medications. I mean, I don't even know what the possibilities could be for him, but if he can have a slightly typical life, I think that it's worth it, you know?
And have you guys heard from any local politicians who are with you, who support you in this? Or are they kind of hesitant to
They're
throw?
hesitant.
They're hesitant to
Yeah.
throw their support
Yeah,
behind it.
I was told to go ahead and buy it on the streets, that I wouldn't be arrested.
Which makes no sense, though, right?
It makes no sense because I wouldn't even know what to
Wow.
do.
Right.
But
I
you
Wow.
don't know what's in the
and
street.
Yeah,
I said,
wow.
do you
So
know that it's
can't trust
an
that, yeah.
oil form, and we're trying to make it legal so that we can obtain the correct
It's regulated.
form.
And, yeah.
So, sorry to interrupt you, Joy. So, in other states where this drug is legal, do you have to get a prescription from a doctor for the
There's
child?
different states have different
Right.
requirements. So some need both parents and two doctors to sign off on it for the children to obtain it, which for all of us is
Right.
easy to do.
Yeah, of
we all have
course.
tons of doctors our kids see.
But you don't buy it at the
You
shelf
go to the
at
dispensary
Walgreens. Okay.
and you go
All
for
right.
lab work with your children, and then they usually start weaning them off of their seizure medication, and they watch closely and see what happens. And I mean, I've talked to so many families, and it's changing their lives.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you guys have a Facebook page set up now. What is that Facebook page?
It's called. Sorry,
notes.
I have
Ella
to
has
read
your
it.
notes. She's
Ella's
so good.
playing with my notes here. It's called Medical Cannabis for, as in the letter or number 4, Kids in Connecticut.
Okay. And so that's where you guys are kind of sharing information. And
Yeah.
how many people are now part of that or supporting that?
Just under 1,000.
That's
today. Yeah.
If it's
Yeah.
not already at 1,000 as we're
pretty
sitting
close.
here, so
We kept it was quiet for a while. We were a little disappointed with the bills, so we were trying to gain some more momentum recently. And then as soon as we start writing into it, we get more likes, we get more comments, and we receive amazing private emails from other parents.
Wow.
So it's mostly been positive.
Oh, overwhelming,
Yes.
positive.
It's just the blockheads in Hartford who, right?
Everyone I talk to, I'm a waitress at Vazzi's in Monroe, and when my article went out, so many of my customers had no idea what I deal with, and they were blown away, and they were 100%. What do we need to do? What do we need to sign? What can we do to help you? And I said, I don't know. I'll let you know. I'm not sure yet. But everyone was like, I had no idea, and of course this should get passed. And so we do have faith in our governor. I think this should be a top priority. I think it will be when enough people realize that their voice matters, and all children should matter. So,
and I
even
think
if it
you need
helps-
to give us parents more power
Yes.
to advocate for something that could work, that isn't in a bottle necessarily, in a pill bottle.
I think parents and doctors should decide what
Yeah.
medication.
And what's really amazing is these are Tony Boucher is against the Common Core thing, and not to get into an education thing, but she says that parents should have the rights to decide how their kids are educated. Shouldn't parents have the rights to decide how their children are cared for medically?
Absolutely.
Right. And so now you have to
Absolutely.
wait until probably next spring before this would ever really, June, the legislature,
Yeah.
till the next legislative session ends, because we know in Hartford they never get anything done at the beginning of the session. They wait till the end to pass all their bills. So you have a year-long wait just for a chance of this to happen again. What are you going to do between now and then?
We're educating every step we get. We're meeting new people. The more it's publicized, the more people understand it. And every person, not government related, wants it,
Right.
understands it. What can we do? Make a phone call. Call your governor. Put a call in. Use our names if you want to. Say, this is what you need. You know us. You want this. You want it passed. And there have been other states that have done special sessions in emergencies to pass it.
Really?
It's doable.
All right.
It
Because
is.
I will tell you, in an emergency situation, nobody knows how to properly care for our children as much as parents like Joy and I do. I mean, there's been times where EMT has said, I want to hire you because I've had to take over.
You guys become experts at your
Yeah.
child's medical. Of course. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
so
feel like
know
you should
best.
have an MD on you, Joy.
Jeez.
Well, Joy and Dana, I mean, thank you so much for coming in and talking with us about this. I really hope that people check out the Facebook page and follow this and, keep up with it. Ella, you've been such a good girl. Thanks for coming on. All right, guys. Well, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back with more Coffee Break after this.